Hello, hello. Hope everyone can hear me. Yes, looks like it. How's everyone doing? Say hello in the chat. It's been a couple weeks, I think. Now we're here and enjoyed some nice music. That was a set that I played at a yoga class recently for a yoga class. Quite peaceful and enjoyable. Nice to do yoga too and just relax, meditate. Some of those visuals were from Europe, it seems. I think that was a Europe visual journey. So it's nice to be here. We're also live on YouTube, as I wanted to start doing that. So this is nice. It's good to connect and just sit in presence. I did quite a bit of this this weekend with a few groups, and we went through the specific kind of pranic breathing process or cellular breathing process that we have done many times in these online classes. And it's a very interesting thing when you're doing that style of breathing, also like in nature as well, right? Because the sensory experience is often quite more profound. You're kind of like you're more immersed in sensation. And so when you're experiencing the breath in that subtle form and you start to expand into, everything breathing around you, let's say, are the crickets and the birds and the air around you, the trees, the plants, you can very much feel this over time. And it's not to say that we can't also feel this when we're just in our house or in an apartment or in the depth of the city. It's just often that when we don't have too many crossovers with, like the EMF energies and, these kind of different other inorganic forms of sensory experience, we can often really start to tap in and feel the visceral nature of that energy as it expands in every direction. So it's quite potent, and I encourage everyone to go and into nature, into the forest, and explore this type of process and explore your meditations in different scenarios. Because but as I say this, with the forest, it can be just as beneficial to do this in the depth of the city as well, or the depth of the dinner table with your family, or at your job, or whatever example we're going to give. Because really all opportunities where there's some sort of revealing of a charge in the body are going to be quite beneficial, even though we can pick and choose the environments we put ourselves in, right? And be mindful about when it's the right time to be in particular environments. It's not always the correct timing to be engaging in certain environments that maybe bring more charge or triggers or things like this, right? But if it is there, then we welcome it, and that's something that's very important. So today we're going to explore that a little bit as per usual, and we'll kind of just go into a simple practice right away, and then we'll explore whatever comes up as we go through that, and then we will have some discussion afterwards. And if there's any questions, then we can also get into that, unless there's any questions now. So I'll give a moment or two for that. But otherwise, we will find just a comfortable position for now that we can engage into some practice with the eyes closed, if that's what you'd like today. So we'll go ahead and bring ourselves there, where we can close the eyes and just bring the attention to what's just simply right here. And notice the wording here, just noticing the idea of, well, not so much the idea, but noticing just what's right here. Often when we close our eyes, there's a kind of a natural tendency to want to look inwards. So we're pointing the attention inwards as if we're going someplace inwards. And just like when we open our eyes and we look outwards in the world, we think, oh, all these things are outside of us, are separate from us. So we're constantly creating this idea of distance, inwardly or externally. Though when we kind of wash those ideas away and we actually just look at, well, what's actually just right here, exactly where we are, exactly where this is. Similar to if we were to explore the present moment, we may have a bunch of ideas as to what the present moment is, or concepts, or inclinations. But when we actually look and really take an honest look at the present moment, whatever this is, or investigate the present moment, it's actually very difficult to even find or locate in any particular way or in any moment in time. And so both of these pointers are synonymous, the present moment, or just simply what is here. We're simply going to be here and rest in what this is and see how this feels, or see simply what arises. On the initial front, the sensations of the body may be the first movers or the first charge in the ways in which the body mind looks to essentially escape what's here, or to move away from this moment or just what this is. There's a movement to other places, other moments, other ideas, perspectives. That's viscerally felt in the body through the clenching. Maybe there's tension being held. Maybe you had a rough morning, so there's tension in the body that needs to just relax. Or maybe there's some anxiety of something in the future or perceived future, and that is also felt viscerally in the body. Maybe there's some adrenaline or just nervousness or anxiety. The movements of mind and emotion will naturally follow this, and in so many ways fuel these sensations. If there is a particular energetic charge or thought form that's creating ideas of past and future, or something out there or in some other place. So with honesty, we investigate all of this. We really inquire to see, is this real? Is this actually here? And of course, it's arising. And if it's arising, then it's here. But as you investigate it, it may disappear almost instantly. So everything is welcomed, but also simultaneously everything is denied, in the sense that when we investigate it, we see that it's actually not what's here. A lot of these thoughts, emotions, feelings, sensations, they're lingering from before, or they're anticipation of what's to come. And so we're in that repetitive mode of just simply investigating every thought, idea, simply by being with it and moving into it, creating no distance or dissolving all distance between any particular thought, feeling, sensation. Nothing is pushed away or resisted. Nothing is denied. And we're not running towards anything either. We're not running towards some fanciful future or some ideal or some idea of perfection or belief of some golden future. We're simply perpetually being with what's here, resting into what's here, investigating what's here. And often, as we investigate various beliefs or just simple ways in which the mind looks to control time and the future, and outcomes and expectations, as it looks to control and manipulate different things. We often can see that these manipulations or desires to control are rooted within some discomfort, some charge, something that is here which is not being acknowledged. It's like there's many layers to what's here, and often we actually look for what's farthest away in the past or future. That seems to be what's most important, and that creates more and more distance and separation, and it naturally distances or creates the apparent distance from the layers of what is actually here. And often that is just discomfort in the body, charge, some sensation that is simply being called to be investigated. And so as we bring things back to simply what is here, being honest about really what is actually being felt here. Does one truly rest in a foundation of peace here? Or is it something other than peace? And that is the reason why so many other ideas about past and future are arising. And so the dance with this investigation is that naturally we can use the mind to direct action and practical means of our day-to-day life experience and directions that we'd like to take, or decisions, choices, all of this. But only, or an eternal deepening into a peaceful way of engaging these same things. So we return into action and natural navigation of our day-to-day life experience from this foundation of peace, where we've investigated and we've actually become honest as to why there's a direction in some particular way, or why there's a certain choice, or why there's a certain focal point of focus in one's day-to-day life. And so we can see, even just through this investigation, how relentless we must be to perpetually come back to investigate sensation, and the level of utmost self-honesty that's required to see through the tendencies of urgency and FOMO and fear and all of the actions and means in which we look to control life, and how they arise on this foundation of discomfort, and how they perpetuate simply because of the unwillingness to be honest about what is actually here, what is actually being felt here. How do we actually feel about somebody or some situation or some project or some engagement? And if we're facing resistance or challenge, have we been honest with how we actually feel, or what is the actual sensation that is here, and how that is the fuel or the root by which particular actions are arising, and particular actions that may or may not be causing further resistance. So this process can be exhausted endlessly. It is really a never-ending practice. It's a practice that can continue throughout the whole day. And really, as we lock in this new habit and way of being, it naturally will become a foundational way of being, a foundational ongoing practice that's not just on in the sessions or on the cushion or in some focalized period of your day. Instead, it becomes the ongoing practice, the ongoing devotion to never-endingly become honest about what's actually here and what's actually being felt and what's the actual true desire. So as long as this is becoming an ongoing practice, the more it foundationally roots itself, the more strength we developed, the more surrender, the more trust in the overall unfolding of divine timing, divine order manifests, which is a beautiful thing. And so some of us may feel complete, at least for this period. Some of us may want to continue, but as we can see, it may continue in phases as we continue to chat and just discuss and reflect on these pointers through this practice today. So those who do feel complete, you're welcome to move the body or open the eyes, take a few breaths, lie down, roll around, jump around, whatever it is. There may be questions as well, which you're free to ask some questions in the chat. And so as a recap from this exploration, this practice, it's very similar to what we've done many times before. And it was a bit shorter today, but it's very simple, right? But it's something that can be done ongoingly. And really, as many of you have likely already been in the process of practicing, as you continue, then it becomes like a muscle, right? It becomes like something that you're ongoingly in the engagement of. It's not even really a practice, it's just a way of being now. That's really what all of spirituality, all spiritual practice is designed for. It's designed to become rooted as a way of being, a natural way of being, a blueprinted way of being, right? An organic way of being. And in this sense, the honesty, self-honesty, right? Because, so for instance, like, say we have a desire for something or to do something or to engage something or to, move towards something or move away from something else. Well, as we really initially come into the path, often when we start to take a look at these motions, these movements, we come to look and be honest about, well, where is this actually stemming from? Is this stemming from a place that is true? Is this actually true, the way I'm acting in this moment, or this movement, or this desire? Is this actually what's true? And oftentimes in the initial stages, when we start to take a look at things, we see, well, it is not necessarily true, right? It's not necessarily as it's appearing to be. It's the desire isn't really what I thought it was, or maybe more specifically, it's not going to give what I thought it was going to give. It's not going to provide what I thought it was going to provide. And that is because if, for instance, we are feeling discomfort and the action is arising upon this foundational sensation of discomfort, well, then naturally the real desire, the honest desire, is not necessarily the exact result of said action, unless the result of said action is essentially to relieve oneself of the discomfort. That's really the core of the desire of the action. So the more there's honesty, so true self-honesty around any particular arising, of movement, then this is where we not only make our path far more efficient and effortless, right? Through the efforting, the intensive efforting of self-honesty and inquiry and investigation, we arrive, and endlessly so, at deeper levels of effortlessness and graceful unfoldings in our life experience, because, well, we have found the root or source of the desired outcome, which is not in a distant place or at the end of, a long list of unfoldings or, or steps or stages. It's actually available right here, right? It's already available right here. This is the direct path. Now, that being said, there may still require an ongoing process of unfolding so that this glimpse that we have gathered, or this glimpse that we've tasted, that, oh, this love is already here, deepens, and it continues to deepen and expand and become more strengthened or rooted in a certain stability, right? A certain unmovable stability. You see, like everything in life, we could have an initial knowing or glimpse, and then we see, well, that glimpse is actually just the beginning, if on some level, or an opening into many more glimpses, or a far deeper clarity as to what that particular thing is. So investigation in this way is such an invaluable process, because it's the only real way we actually can. I mean, it's really the true litmus test of self-honesty in my view. Because how are we really to know unless we've actually investigated and pierced through things? It's kind of like when we go on our journey, and at first we may have really resonated with something, and we convinced ourselves so strongly how much we resonate with something and why something was so true. And then maybe a year later we see, well, no, I was wrong, right? Or it wasn't what I thought it was. So what is that? Well, that's just a further depth in the piercing nature of your self-honesty, because you become more honest with yourself through knowledge, through wisdom about all things, about existence, about truth, the nature of reality. And then that brings a clear view as you move forward from there. And then it deepens again, and it deepens again, and it continues to deepen. So we're not here to fault ourselves for our viewpoints previously. We're simply to recognize how honest we're actually being. That's all. Like a relentless self-honesty. But that comes only from oneself. It can't come from anybody else. It has to come only from oneself. And it generally comes in this life through suffering, right? Because we experience the suffering through dishonesty, like being dishonest to ourselves about what's actually true, what's actually here, what's actually whatever. Not seeing what is actually, not really taking a look as to what actually is here. And then we experience suffering, and then that suffering actually acts as a signpost, because we're like, oh, well, we can take note about that, because the suffering is also a humble pie, right? It's a nice served plate of humble pie, because the humility is in the fact that, well, we thought we knew, and then humility says, no, you don't. Silence, bring yourself, into deeper silence, and then you can see, you can become more honest about what is true, what is here, right? So this practice is so simple, right? So simple, but so daunting. The question is, well, why did not more people do this? Well, because it comes from it comes from your own will. Like, how many times we may have seen something about somebody else that we'd like to share or help them with or whatever, but if there's an unwillingness, then it doesn't matter. All right. If there's an unwillingness, it doesn't matter. And that's the respecting of everyone's unique path, where we have to be respecting of everyone's unique path and unique timing and journey that may take far longer or be far quicker than our own in terms of, some level of progression. Because as much as the journey is eternal, the journey is also set with very specific stages, attainments, layers to the process, which give us a clarity as to where we have come. It's like a map. Of course, there's going to be signposts. There's going to be, certain benchmarks to your destination. Of course. Right. So we have to be grounded in that, and humble to that as well, because it is very much a scientific process. This appearing abstract journey, spiritual awakening or eternal fucking journeying. I don't know. All of it. But Yeah, so that was a long-winded little flow there of things. If there's questions or topics that you'd like me to expand on, this would be nice. But so fundamental, and the message never really changes. I mean, how many times do I make fun of the idea that I have to come up with new names on how to market these sessions every week? It's the same damn thing. And it has been for many years. Because, as much as the journey is endlessly complex, so complex, it does come back to these core things. So if we can remind ourselves to be focused upon these core things, we will not lose sight of the path, even in the complexities of our journey, in the complexities of our healing, the complexities of our ancestry, complexities of our geography, of our contract, soul contract, all of these things, which can bring so many different nuances and variables into the mix, into the soup. And but if we're not clear about the fact, of the matter, in terms of the core aspects to our journey and the core principles which govern everything else, then we can very quickly get lost in those things. And that's fine too, right? We all are here to experience and venture and adventure, right? Because if it's eternal, there's no rush. The question is, does one desire peace? So there's no rush to peace. You're already that. It's more a question of, is that actually what's desired? Right? Because if it's not, then of course there would be no care as to how fast one comes to that or returns back to that peace, right? It wouldn't really be that wouldn't really matter much. So as there is more of a clear desire that peace is what's desirable, then, well, we are gifted exactly that, and we're gifted all the things that require that, and then, in equal measure, of course, we are gifted the revealing of the shadow and our own shadow and all the good stuff that comes with that. That's of course why peace at times is not desired. It would be far easier, or it'd be more, gentle, let's say, to just take a break, or not, just kind of want sedation, maybe. There may be a desire for sedation rather than peace. And that's okay too. It's all fine and dandy, whatever it is. And that's one thing that we are all reminded of. And I feel, for those here who may be in a position in their circles, with their friends or people around them, with some form of influence or leadership or desire to support or teach or guide, it's an ongoing humbling reminder that not everyone is going to be in the desire to make movements in the same direction you are, or to progress, or to come to this peace as well. It's really still such a small fraction, even within the spiritual community. So we have to be very mindful of that, and we're mindful of our willingness to support, but at times at a distance, right? Or support, but be willing to be alone as well. It's a very lonely path in so many ways, not in the emotional sense, in just the realistic sense, more so like not necessarily lonely, but you'll just be more alone. It's just natural, of course, until, the collective spaces, continue to shift, and it may take many years, which is fine, right? Kat is saying here, Rumi talks about polishing of the mirror, which is why the same talk every week is helpful. It's very true. It's very true. I mean, I clean the bathroom mirror every week, and it's the same arduous process. I'm trying to get those streaks out in the bathroom. You're just like, oh, wow, I just did this last week, and it's just as difficult. Never gets really any easier, Tyler was asking, you speak of irritation from others. Is that me pushing peace away? Can you speak on irritation from others? Well, irritation from others is an interesting thing, right? We're really just revealing, when we're feeling irritated about somebody or some way of being, of course, it's naturally revealing something about our co-creative contribution to this experience. So it's not like everything that someone else does that we're triggered by, we are somehow doing exactly that. The chances of us doing maybe a small fraction of that or having a lingering karma of that, meaning we may have done that maybe many years ago and we don't do it as often anymore, but we do it once in a while, or we're still kind of healing, or we're in the echo of that energy, which is revealing to us in this other person and it triggering us in some way. That's naturally because there's still some more work to do, right? There's still some more compassion within the whole of self that's required. And on the other end, there's also a co-creative endeavor here where um, what is our engagement with this being, right? Have we overstepped our commitment with this being in a particular way that creates more attachment than necessary? Is there a container of this relationship that is not really actually conducive for growth of yourself or the other being, that is the container that has been set that no longer is suitable? And that's creating also more attachment or intricacies with the relationship that's unnecessary. Has there been past agreements or commitments with said relationship that's creating more stress in the dynamic, right? So like, for instance, we could be in a very intimate relationship with somebody and all of a sudden new things about the same ways they've always acted start to become more intensive because we've gotten closer with this person. But maybe it's actually revealing that we don't actually need to be so close with this person, because those aspects of themselves may just continue and it may not be in alignment with our way of being. So it's not that this person has to change or we have to change. It's just the container of the commitment, the container of the relationship can shift a little bit. And on the other end, it may be an opportunity for great work between the both of the individuals, where both can work on how they interact with this topic or this way of being. But again, when we really take into account, like if we just look at our own path, for instance, and we look at how long it's taken for particular things in our own path to shift and change and evolve and progress and heal. If we're coming into a relationship where someone is in the depth of their own path with a particular subject, well, that could take quite a long time for them to really integrate. So the question is, are we really willing to wait or be with that or engage with that? And if yes, then, well, okay, we will accept whatever time period that will be required. And we will accept where we are still triggered by this so that we can heal that, so that we can be okay with this behavior. But if it's not something that we're willing to deal with, then we have to be willing to communicate this and be clear about our engagements. And again, the levels of intimacy that we are desiring with particular people. This is really the core of the quest. And I know for myself, it's very much been the journey. It's a topic that I've faced even recently. I mean, it's ongoingly. It's an ongoing process, I feel, even in advanced stages, especially in advanced stages of the path, because we are becoming more and more clear as to and honoring of our own journey and how much devotion, how much intensity it's required for our own path. So if it's required this much intensity and devotion on our own path, and the amount of hours and energy and time that we've spent on our own journey, when we come across other beings that on their own path, well, they may have a completely different level of intensity that may be far greater or far less. And so we don't really know until we get to know people and get to know ourselves and get to know the connections, of these types of relationships that reveal where everyone really is at. That can take time and that can be painful. That's part of the painful process of relationships, because sometimes we engage and then we have to disengage, or sometimes we have to take it very slower than what our desires want or what our expectations want. It's very much a process of patience and gentleness and compassion and honoring, self-honesty again, right? Where are we really at? Where is this being really at? Is it a match? Is it something that is going to work or be engaged in the correct way? What is our co-creative responsibility in this engagement? What is theirs? What have I brought to the table? What have they brought to the table? And how has it created this circumstance or situation? Self-honesty brings the whole picture. My own actions, their actions, where the clear boundary is, right? Because yes, everything's a mirror on some level, but we have to stay practical with that too. And practicality, in my view, comes through communication. It comes through timing. It comes through correct action. right? It comes through all of the things, but embodied in a very, very human way. So I hope this makes sense. Because it's a vast subject, and it's something that all of us, engaging in the spiritual process, we're not just pure monks. None of us really are, in the sense that we're only doing this. We have lives, we have engagements, we have relationships, we have jobs, we have householder life responsibilities. So there will be ongoingly engagements with other people, but we can really stay committed to our personal process, our aloneness, our containment of what we have available for our own being and our own well-being, our own needs. And when that is contained, in the sense that we have continuously increased our ability to provide for our own well-being, well, of course, then we're less attached to the needs of needing all these other people to fulfill all these things for us. Not that our human vessel doesn't require other people and touch and communication and relationships. It's all a natural need, but we're more balanced within it, so that we can make more clear and honest choices and patient choices in terms of how we engage with the relationships. Because very much this process is about learning to be okay alone, so that you can be clear about who and what you're engaging with and why you're engaging. What's the context of the engagement, right? And the intention behind the engagement. That all can become way more clear, and thus result in far more peace and less suffering in the dynamics of interaction. So whether you're enlightened or not, this is still very valuable, very valuable topics, right? Of course, if we just all were to learn this, I mean, maybe we wouldn't even care about enlightenment. Most of us are looking for enlightenment because of all the issues in our relationships. So it's a funny thing, but it's all comes together. It's not one or the other, right? It's a full process, and very much the process of a true embodied enlightenment or awakening or stability in deeper stages is going to come from and going to be represented in how we treat others, how we interact with others, and all these things, right? So yeah, we're looking for enlightenment because of the issues in our relationship. Yeah, it's hilarious, eh? Oh boy. I mean, yeah, if we're really honest about it, right? And obviously we're talking about human relationships, but everything in life is a relationship, a relationship to all things: food, sex, drugs, alcohol, relationships, business, money, living situations, I don't know, our bodies, everything. So we can see how, yeah, like when we're feeling discomfort, we go on the seeking path, right? And if you look at that on the micro level, not just like the macro level of like, I want to attain alignment, but the micro level of the moment I'm feeling discomfort, I'm seeking something. Then you calm down. Then you hit a trigger again, seeking something. Come down, trigger, seeking something. It's like this never-ending kind of oscillation until it keeps kind of like coming back, and then we actually start to get comfortable, more and more comfortable in the shadow, in the darkness, in the depth of just simply what's here. And then it just keeps this oscillating down, right? So that's an interesting visual, but I feel quite accurate to the core of this process. So yeah, great question, great topic. Definitely alive and well for all of us, I feel. And of course, it's the whole topic of the path, as we have obviously identified, but very much the past few years, because a lot of the collective reverberation of awakening has revealed the dynamic of intimacy and authenticity within relationships, right? Like for instance, everyone's divisive on all these topics nowadays. So you could have someone that you knew for so long, and then all of a sudden, this topic reveals, and it really reveals a deeper core as to who this being is, or their perspectives on things, and how they may be aligned or not so aligned with your perspectives. Naturally, if you're coming to awakening spaces, you naturally already had a sense with certain relationships about things, but we're endlessly surprised, right? As to where people stand and what people are willing to do, or the way they're willing, the way they're willing to act in the depth of discomfort. All right, it's always a good litmus test. And so this is just an endless topic, right? It's an endless topic. And it's always really going to come back to the core of our most intimate relationships, our family, some of our, more maybe intimate, more romantic, I guess the term, or whatever, partnership, these types of things, or business partners, creative partners, if you do music with someone else or some sort of artistic collaboration. These are all ways in which the most in-depth energies are revealed, because it's such an intimate process to create things with each other, whether it's a human, whether it's a business, whether it's a project, a piece of art, or just a moment shared together, or many moments. This is it's a beautiful process. So yeah, great subjects. Very much enjoyed this. I don't know if there's anything else or anything, any other topics or questions that would like to be covered. Getting a bit hot here in my room, so I'm feeling my sweater is probably too big. It's such a random weather time, it goes really cold in the night and then it's hot in the daytime, and just a funny space. Kat says this Jesus quote she really likes is, what is within you must be brought out. Yes. Or if you withhold what is within you, it will destroy you. Yeah. It's quite straight to the point, isn't it? I feel we all, have come to see this at this point now. If we're just simply honoring what's arising, then we're okay with what's arising and what needs to come out. And in the dynamic of relationship, sometimes things come out not in the best ways, but I feel like when there's a certain container of trust and a certain container of common sense, in common sense, I use this term very specifically in the terms of like when we're really aware of the fact that we're all on these paths and we're going through these specific things and we're healing these very deep traumas, like we have some sort of like consideration as to the intensity of this process and not projecting or needing perfection out of everybody. And in that we can hold space for each other, right? But the core of the matter is that we can hold space for each other, which is so invaluable. I mean, there's nothing really more important than that when it comes to any sort of external support. But the core of it all is we have to be willing to hold that space for ourselves, because how many times where we may have someone hold space for us and then a release happens and then we go back to the same tendency the next day. So this is natural because of the momentum of the conditioning, but it shows and it reveals to us that it's required ongoingly for us to be willing to do so. And then in that willingness, we will be supported by other beings who can hold space, because that can be very helpful. Certainly very helpful. It's almost, I wouldn't say it's a necessity, but it just helps. It can expedite things as much as we sometimes want to do things alone, right? Quote parade. We have a quote parade in the Zoom chat. Viviana has, the world is not coming at you, it is coming through you. Oh, that's really cool. Yeah, for sure. I mean, at a certain point when you start to experience synchronicities, like multiple times an hour kind of thing, or all the time, where it feels like synchronicity is never ending and you're always aware of what's going on, how things are messaging, you see very much so that this is the only possibility that reality is created through perception, right? Because in so many ways, synchronicity breaks all the laws of probability, and especially when it starts to increase to the point where, it's like multiple times an hour, even like every few minutes, that there's something there that you're noticing. And the real fact is you're just not noticing that it's actually every second, every millisecond, all the time. So in that sense, the rules of probability are completely dismantled, like material probability in terms of coincidence and this type of thing. So then naturally, you see, everywhere you look, your eyes are literally creating reality everywhere you look. Everywhere you look, you are co-creating. I mean, we're co-creating in this dimension, right? Because we are sharing it. But the essence of, as we increase the quotient of energy or devotion, particularly as we increase the power of our devotion, it increases our influence of co-creative power. So we will have a greater influence as we co-create with other beings. It's just natural. And that's true power, right? It's not power over other beings, it's power with other beings. And you're given that power due to the high level of responsibility that you've accepted in your perception, in your consciousness, expansion of consciousness. So your power is stronger, and then the responsibility of your creative power is stronger, so that when you're around other beings, your power, your creative power, is influencing positively these other beings. Not power over, but it's power with, and it's influencing in a very positive way, right? So your influence bubble and, you know, kind of your expression is just that much stronger and that much more precise in terms of what's going to support in the greater good, right? So, and we can all notice that. You go out when you're in a good mood, you know, walking around the grocery store, things like that, and you're really just vibrant with everyone. You can feel the influence, you can feel the energy. And funny enough, when you're in a bad mood, you can feel it just as much at times, and you can see what's happening. And that's why the more responsible that we become, right, the more the expansion of our consciousness is, the more we have to be mindful, the more responsibility in our hands, because our power doesn't change. If we're in a bad mood, the power is still going to be there and it's going to ripple, right? So it's not to be afraid of our bad moods, but it's just recognizing that it comes with a responsibility, right? And this is why these teachings were always protected. They were always only given to those who had passed the litmus test of ethical morality, right, and true virtue, right? And on this planet, those teachings in so many ways have been abused, right? Because, well, it's gotten in the hands of many other beings, and so this is now the time where we individually heal that energy within our own being. So we uproot those behaviors so that we can use this power for benevolent purpose, right? A purpose of righteousness and true virtue. Great. Well, I'll give it just one more opening if there's any other further questions, comments, or topics. This will be the last one, and then the last round. And otherwise we will be on our way, and enjoy your days. Hopefully you're all enjoying your day. Do I have anything to announce? Not at the moment. I was going to remind people to go and do that meditation bundle. It's really a non-dual course, just not sequence in a course. There's a lot of recordings from this old one. It's about 20 hours, and they have some of the most potent meditations I feel we've done over the past year. So, that is always a great recommendation for people to go on the Gumroad platform and check out. I may have some new stuff coming soon, but I've been very much focused on music production. I have some new songs coming that I'm very excited about. I'm very much in this creative mood. And so that's been my focus at this time, which has been very fulfilling. But we'll see many creative focuses, to be honest. And we'll see how it all comes about. Donation link is here. I'm sharing for those that care to do so. It's not required, of course. I don't know if I have too much else. Hey, Lavani, much love, bruh. If you're coming in after the fact or now, I would highly recommend to rewatch. This is going to be on YouTube. I mean, really potent discussions, and I feel the discussion on relationships and dynamics is a real useful one. I also am going to recommend everyone go on YouTube after this and watch my recent little clip I just put up this morning. It's about 30 minutes, and it was in just a random Skype call with a good friend of mine, Jack, who I'm making a song with actually right now. And we had a really good discussion on topics like cessation and non-duality, and Frank Yang came up, obviously he's a friend of mine. We had some great discussions about some of the things he shares and its relation to Buddhism and Kalandic science and non-duality, and just all these topics. So I really enjoyed that piece of the chat. So I clipped it, and it is now on YouTube, and it went up live today. So I'd yeah, highly recommend to go watch that. Um, but otherwise, that's all for now. If you want to book some time with me, feel free to send me a message. Otherwise, have a beautiful rest of your day or morning or night or whatever it is. You're welcome. Kat, Viviana, all of you. Thanks for the questions and comments. And yeah, we'll look to do this again quite soon. See y'all.